Good afternoon. Welcome to the Mind of STEM channel, where you get your daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. My name is Leon Jones, and today we are going to get into two math subjects. So this first video is part 1 of 2. And the topic that we're going to talk about today is algebra. So, the title of this afternoon's video is the math subject of algebra. The math subject of algebra. Now, I like to talk about algebra because algebra is very important, especially if you're going to go into science like engineering. Because if you cannot do well in algebra, it's going to be very difficult for you to do exceedingly well in upper level subjects such as calculus and linear algebra and differential equations and even statistics and some of the sciences that involve algebra like physics. So when we talk about algebra from Arabic just means the reunion of broken parts and bone setting. Now, that is the Arabic form of what algebra means. Again, from Arabic, algebra means the reunion of broken parts and bone setting. But when we talk about algebra in general, it is one of the broadest areas of mathematics together with number theory, geometry, and analysis. Now, in its general form, algebra is the study of mathematical symbols and the rules for manipulating these symbols. And when we talk about symbols, we are basically talking about formulas. Like, let me give you Ohm's law. I equals V over R. Now, if you want to find R, what do you have to do? You divide both sides by I. That's what we're talking about when we deal with manipulating formulas. Now, it is a unifying thread of almost all mathematics. It includes everything from elementary equation solving to the study of abstractions such as groups, rings, and fields. The more basic parts of algebra are called elementary algebra. The more abstract parts are called abstract algebra or modern algebra. Now, for the most part, elementary algebra is generally considered to be the essential of any study of mathematics, science, or engineering, as well as such applications as medicine and economics. Now, abstract algebra is a major area in advanced mathematics studied primarily by professional mathematicians. Now, elementary algebra differs from arithmetic in the use of abstractions such as using letters to stand for numbers that are either unknown or allowed to take on many values. For example, in the equation, x plus 2 equals 5. The letter x is an unknown, but applying additive inverses can reveal its value, x equals 3. Now, how did I get x equals 3? Very simple. In the equation, x plus 2 equals 5, in order to isolate x or to solve for x, what you do to one side in algebra, you do to the other. So to find the unknown in x plus 2 equals 5, I basically subtracted 2 from both sides to isolate x, and I got the value for x. Now, of course, you want to make sure when you get the value for x that you can substitute x to make sure your answer is right. So when I subtract 2 from both sides, I get x equals 3. So when I go back and plug in 3 for x, 3 plus 2 equals 5. Now, of course, we have Einstein's law 2, E equals mc squared. The letters E and M are variables, and the letter C is a constant, the speed of light in a vacuum. Now, algebra gives methods for writing formulas and solving equations that are much clearer and easier than the older method of writing everything out in words. Now, the word algebra is also used in certain specialized ways. Now, a special kind of mathematical object in abstract algebra is called an algebra, and the word is used, for example, in the phrases linear algebra, algebraic topology. Now, a mathematician who does his research in algebra is called an algebraist. Now, of course, when we deal with etymology, and I did a video earlier on etymology, the word algebra comes from Arabic, the al-jabar lit, the restoring of broken parts, from the title of an early 9th century book, La Algebra wa la Makabala, the science of restoring and balancing by the Persian mathematician and astronomer al-Khwarizmi. Now, in his work, the term algebra, and they spell it Al-Jabr, referred to the operation of a moving term from one side of an equation to the other. Al-Makubala, balancing, referred to adding equal terms to both sides. And it's exactly what I did when I used x plus 3, but I subtracted terms from both sides. Now, what occurred is when you shorten everything, or let's say short to just algebra or algebra, in Latin, the word eventually entered the English language during the 15th century from either Spanish, Italian, or medieval Latin. It originally referred to the surgical procedure of setting broken or dislocated bones. Now, the mathematical meaning was first recorded in English in the 16th century. Now, there are different meanings of algebra. The word algebra has several related meanings in mathematics as a single word or with qualifiers. Now, as a single word without an article, algebra names a broad part of mathematics. As a single word with an article or in the plural, an algebra or algebras denotes a specific mathematical science whose precise definition depends on the context. Usually, the structure has an addition, multiplication, or scalar multiplication. Now, when some authors use the term algebra, they make a subset of the following additional assumptions: associative, commutative, unital, and or finite dimensional. Now, in universal algebra, the word algebra refers to a generalization of the above concept that I've mentioned. Take a single word with or without an article, which allows for n-ary operations. Of course, n being a variable of unknown. Now, with a qualifier, there's the same distinction. Without an article, it means a part of algebra, such as linear algebra or elementary algebra. The symbol manipulation rules taught in elementary courses of mathematics are part of primary and secondary education, or abstract algebra, which is the study of algebraic structures for themselves. Now, with an article, it means an instance of some abstract structure, like a Lie algebra or an associative algebra or a vertex operator algebra. Sometimes both meanings exist for the same qualifier as in the sentence. Commutative algebra is the study of commutative rings which are commutative algebras over integers. Now, of course, when we deal with algebras, there's all kinds of names. Now, if you want to know more about this topic, just check out Wikipedia, because I'm not going to get heavily into what algebra is because I want you all to research for yourself, but you need to check out Wikipedia/algebra, because this video is just giving you an overview of algebra, because within algebra there's polynomials, which is an expression that the sum has a finite number of zero items, each consisting of a product of a constant and a finite number of variables raised to numerical powers. For example, x squared plus 2x minus 3. That is a polynomial in a single variable x. Now, a polynomial expression is an expression that may be written as a polynomial by using commutative, associative, and distributive of addition and multiplication. For example, x minus 1 times x plus 3 is a polynomial expression that, properly speaking, is not a polynomial. It's basically a polynomial function, and a polynomial function is a function that is defined by a polynomial, or equivalently by a polynomial expression. Now, the two preceding examples define the same polynomial function. Now, two important and related problems in algebra are the factorization of polynomials, that is, expressing a given polynomial as a product of other polynomials that cannot be factored any further, and the computation of polynomial greatest common divisors. The example that I just mentioned, x minus 1 times x plus 3, you cannot factor that anymore. But now if you want to find out what x is to zero everything out, then again, you can look at the polynomial. Or at x minus 1 would be 1. The factors would be 1 comma negative 3. And if you plug both of those numbers back in, you should get 0. 0 times 0 is 0. Now, it's very important because when you get into statics, you want to zero everything out. Now, a related class of problems is finding algebraic expressions for the roots of a polynomial in a single variable. Now, when we talk about roots, there's also a quadratic equation. The quadratic equation is x minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus BAC all over 2a. Now, if you want to find a discriminant, it's basically b squared minus BAC. Those are examples of algebra, because without algebra, you couldn't go any further in math, because with algebra, you can find limits. Now, why do I mention limits? Because in upcoming videos, we're going to get into calculus. And usually when we talk about algebra, algebra leads you into courses such as calculus, because after you find a derivative, which a derivative is a rate of change, you can apply algebra to many equations. When you go into physics, let's say you want to find the kinetic energy. Well, kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared. And when you're given any information, you want to be able to plug information in, and what you don't have, you isolate the variable to get the solution. And you use that by solving algebraic equations. And you also get into equations of 2 or even 3 unknowns. And what you got to do, you zero one unknown out, you find the other unknown, You substitute for the unknown you just found to get the unknown you just zeroed out. Now, in linear algebra, you use what we call matrices. Now, matrices are commonly used when you are going into computers because you always use the binary system of ones and zeros. But for the most part, again, when we talk about algebra, we're basically talking about the generalist form of algebra or the general form of algebra. Basically, we're saying algebra is the study of mathematical symbols and rules for manipulating these symbols. Now that concludes this topic on algebra. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. Also, like these videos. Now, if you're looking for more controversial content, you can still tune me in on YouTube. Check out the 401 Talk Zone radio show. I give you an overview of the topic I'm going to talk about on my next platform, which is Blog Talk Radio. And I utilize Blog Talk Radio because Blog Talk Radio is a paid service that I can utilize my free speech. 215-383-5785 is the number. You want to check me out on Blog Talk Radio. Now, if you cannot find me on Blog Talk Radio or YouTube, simply check me out on Twitter, MeWe, and Parler. And once again, I thank you for listening to the Mind of STEM channel. And on this channel, get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Please have a wonderful and gracious day.